Industry is the driving force of Houston's economy. More than 3,000 companies call it home. But how will new regulations affect the sector's future? Let's go back to Melissa Francis on assignment in Houston. Hey, Melissa.
Thank you so much, Lori. Yeah, it is a beautiful day here in Houston. I'm joined by Art Gelber, the president of Gelber and Associates, and Lori was just talking about the fact we have new regulation, increased regulation without question, coming to the energy sector, and specifically fracking, which has been such a boom to Texas and to really the energy infrastructure in the whole country. Do you think more regulation is coming, and what's the impact?
Well, absolutely. There's more regulation coming, both at the state level and at the federal level. The impact is going to be some more specific guidelines and rules, oversight at the federal level that'll sort of set an umbrella, and then it's more specifically administered at the state levels.
Yeah.
Fracking is taking place in places that aren't used to drilling, like Ohio, and the state regulations are still catching up.
Yeah, a lot of people have said that. They say it's relatively unregulated because it's happening in places where they haven't worried about it in the past. But people like John Dunham and Associates estimate that we could see $1.5 billion in added cost next year as a result of more regulation. Do you think that's a big number. You think that's right?
Well, I think the number is high. I think the order of magnitude is probably high. I think that more regulation will cost more money, and that will have an impact. It'll drive up the cost to find oil and natural gas. But at the same time, Melissa, if you don't have regulation, then unsafe practices could take hold, and that could have a greater impact like we've seen in other places of the energy market.
Now, we've seen the price of natural gas plummet as a result of all this fracking. It's meant a lot of cheap energy for a lot of Americans out there, but at the same time, we were talking about this in the break, there are a lot of wells that have been drilled and are not being used right now as a result of these lower prices. Do you think that's why we're seeing that, and how big a deal is it?
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why you're seeing it. Production is still very high, both oil and natural gas. And as a result of this tremendous new resource base we've created with shale and fracking, prices are down, and that's causing supply to be down as well. They're drilling wells, but they're not necessarily completing them.
Right, they're not completed. I'm hearing that from a lot of people anecdotally. Big push, and now all of a sudden a lot of these wells are sitting silent. Is that true?
Well, there's been a decrease in the capital spending. And also, some of these wells are in frontier areas where you don't have pipelines, so they're waiting for infrastructure to catch up with the exploratory drilling. It's a huge geographic area that's been open to oil and natural gas.
Well,
huge.
We're going to have Rich Kidner on later on Money at 5 p.m. Eastern, and we'll ask him about that question. But before I let you go, because of course he's the pipeline king and you're talking about infrastructure,
Absolutely.
I want to ask you about this plummet in oil prices that we have seen here, 7% in the past 3 sessions. Do you think that there's been a fundamental breakdown in the price of oil here and we're going lower, or is this just a temporary reprieve?
We think it's just a temporary reprieve. Oil prices are pushing higher. You get glitches in the markets just because of the ebb and the flow of both buying and selling and electronic trading.
Yeah.
And the range between $100 and $85, I think, is well established. And I think we're going to stay in there throughout the wintertime.
But this is, look at that chart we've got on the screen right there. You can see it is a big move downwards. And traders have said that they think the economy is not getting better. That the Saudis have said that they have as much oil as they can possibly put on the market, that everything that's going on in the Middle East has already been priced in. I've heard such arguments for why oil is going to stay where it is. At the same time, the Fed is printing money. There's all kinds of other reasons for it to go up. So what do you think takes the cake at the end of the day? What's your price target for the rest of the year?
Well, for the rest of the year, we think oil prices will stay under $100 and above $85. I think you're seeing the range. I think you're seeing volatility in the range. And the rest of it, honestly, is electronic noise of buyers and sellers.
Okay. All right, thank you so much for joining us here on the beautiful campus of Rice University. Of course, we are open for business in Houston, Texas, where the economy is absolutely booming. It has grown more than 8% in 2011. We wanted to figure out what is in the secret sauce and what is it that is making this economy grow faster than the rest of the country. And tonight, coming up at 5 p.m. on Money with Melissa Francis, we have Senator Kay Bailey Hutchinson is joining us. She's going to talk about the regulatory environment and the political environment that fosters this kind of business growth. We're going to have Rich Kidner, the CEO of Kinder Morgan. I don't know the last time I've seen him on television. That's a pretty good get, so you'll have to tune in to see what he has to say about oil and gas prices going ahead. Lori, back to you. And by the way, I am bringing those cowboy boots.
Oh, yes.
And now I'm thinking lime green. I know you said you didn't want pink. How do you feel about lime green?
Ooh, worse.
No?
Come on, you're the fashionista of this crowd. Such a tease.
Okay, I'll keep thinking.
Hey,
Yeah.
one quick question, if you have a moment.
Yeah.
A glut of natural gas, cheaper energy, right? All of this talk, these fears generating now about inflation, care of the Fed. I mean, what's the likelihood cheap energy could offset this on a broader scope?
You know, that would be great, but over time, as soon as we see the economy pick up again, you know, traders always get in and bid back up the price of oil and energy because you need it as the economy expands.
Sure.
So I never feel like cheap energy is here to stay for any period of time, but maybe in the natural gas market because we do have such a big supply.
You know what's so great about you? We can talk about fashion. We can talk about markets. We just run the gamut. It's great. All right, I'll watch you at 5 tonight, Melissa. Have a great afternoon.
See you later, Laura.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Fed continues, as we're talking about, to pump cheap money into the system.